Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Brian Will on the line, and he's a business consultant and author of The Dropout Multi-Millionaire. Brian, welcome to the show.
Adam, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, man. So today's topic, well, first off, lots of business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives watch this show. And today's topic really, 80% of businesses fail. Like, why does that happen? Like, there's some very specific reasons of which we're going to go into with you. And as a serial entrepreneur yourself, I'm excited to get your take on this. But before we do, we'll start this episode the way we start them all with our Mission Matters Minute. So, Brian, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Brian, what mission matters to you?
You know, Adam, I have worked with a lot of people over the years that have poured their lives and their life savings into businesses, be they small, medium, or large. And I consistently see the same issues over and over with why they can't get to profitability, why they can't scale. And I've seen a lot of people go out of business because they simply just didn't know what they were doing. And, part of my mission here is to help people who are willing to listen and willing to take some advice to, move their business forward and create a better life for themselves.
Man, it's a great mission, and happy to have you on the show. And what you said about some of the businesses that have maybe gone out of business that maybe didn't have to, like they could have had a great idea, great product, but maybe they were missing something that allowed them to, whether it's managing cash flow, whatever it was. And we'll get into the nuances of that. But first off, I've been trying to get you on this show for a while now, and like tracking you down. I don't know if I should say hunting you down, but tracking you down. I mean, you're all over the place. So I know that you just came back, I believe, from Antarctica. You were there with the Maverick 1000 group. Tell me about that one.
Well, we had this idea to go to Antarctica. So we signed up about a year ago and put this group together. There's about 53 of us, I believe. Got our own private boat through Expedition 21 or Antarctica 21 and booked it. And we went to the South Pole, basically. It was quite a trip. It was unbelievably hard to get there. Every obstacle you can imagine would got in our way, including me losing my passport 3 weeks before we were supposed to leave. Having to go down a day early, having to take 4 PCR COVID tests before we could even get on the boat. It was crazy the amount of effort it took to get on there, but the trip was awesome. So I just got back the other morning.
Oh, man, what an experience. And so tell me a little bit more about this group. So I looked at the website, and it just appears to be this amazing group of rock star entrepreneurs and business individuals. Like, tell me more about the group.
Yeah, it was originally started by a guy named Yannick Silver, and it originally was a kind of a CEO adventure group or an entrepreneur adventure group for, people that had some resources and want to go spend some money and do some really cool things. They spend a week on Necker Island with Richard Branson every year. They've done this Antarctica trip. They've flown fighter jets. Yannick signed up to go to space. I am too, actually. Just if you can think of the craziest, most adventurous things you could do, that's what they do.
What do you feel drives like entrepreneurs, especially to groups like this? Because I find that, is it the adventure? Is it the camaraderie, combination? Like, what do you think that draw is?
I kind of coined this phrase when I sold my company about 15 years ago. And you ever hear people talk about the things they want to do in life someday, but they never actually do them? Well, I decided, when I sold the company that I was going to chase my passions around the world. And so I started doing all those things everybody said they wanted to do. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs that have achieved some success and they've got those kind of resources, go do it. I've run with the bulls in Spain. I've climbed Mount Fuji. I've done 4 of the 14ers in Colorado. I've walked the Great Wall of China. I've cage dive with sharks in South Africa. Just all those things that everybody goes, wow, you did that. Like, yeah. And now I've done the polar plunge in Antarctica. So.
And the polar plunge, for context, for everybody that doesn't know, I believe that you jumped in, right?
We jumped off the side of the ship, 34-degree water, icebergs and glacier behind us, and they had us tethered to the boat so we couldn't get away, and they drug us back in.
Oh, man. Welcome back from the polar plunge to Mission Matters. Come on, Brian. I'm in. Oh, so I guess you gave some of this, but I do want to go further into it. So your background as a serial entrepreneur, you mentioned like what are some of the industries, or just give us a feel on how you got started on that entrepreneurial journey.
You know, how I got started is a different story. I was rough background, grew up in a bad situation, got kicked out of high school, didn't go to college, joined the military, didn't have any place else to go, needed a place to sleep and food to eat. Tried to get jobs when I got out. I couldn't hold a job. The best job I could hold was a busboy at Applebee's. That was kind of where I fit in the world. And by the way, where you are today has nothing to do with where you can be in life. And that's something that people need to understand. So I ended up getting married, didn't have a job, didn't have a car, didn't have a place to live, lived with my grandmother, with my new wife, took a job working in a landscaping crew, making $4 an hour. But there was just this thing in my head that kind of goes back to my grandfather growing up. He was third grade educated, but owned 4 different businesses and would just drive around and do whatever he wanted to do all day long. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. So how I got started, I started mowing grass for this company up in Ohio. And after 2 weeks, I started adding up all the money they were making and then how much they were paying me and the 2 guys with me. And I came to this realization that the guy that owned the business, who was sitting home, was making about $1,000 a week, and I was making $160.
Yeah.
I call this, and I'm not politically correct now, I'm from Ohio. I grew up in a farm town. I'm not educated. I had this one of us is stupid moments. And I knew who it was. It was me. So I thought to myself, you know, well, anybody can cut grass, right? So I went out and bought a mower and a weed eater and a blower, and I started a grass cutting business, and that was my first business. And grew that into a 7 franchise operation down here in Atlanta. Moved on from that into the insurance world, built a company that technically was the first call center in America selling health insurance. We sold that to a venture capital company in 1999. Then we started a software company that today powers 1-800-Medicare.com. Then I started another company in insurance, which today is getinsured.com, which powers probably 12 state exchanges under the ACA. We started another internet marketing company, which was monetizeit.com, which turned into the largest digital marketing company in the country. So I exited all those and that tried to quit. I couldn't because my brain won't stop. It's a curse, unfortunately. I think most entrepreneurs have that curse that their brain just doesn't stop. So consulted for companies from Fortune 500 down to small. And then was sitting in a bar, which is what I like to do with, you know, people that work with me. We go to happy hour, you know, 3 or 4 times a week. And somebody said, why don't you buy a bar? I said, that's a great idea. Let's buy the one we're sitting in. So I bought 1 and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Next thing you know, you own a chain of restaurants.
Yeah.
Along the way, I wrote a couple books and got into politics just here recently and always looking for that next adventure in life.
What an amazing story. And I wanna stick maybe to that earlier part of your career for a moment longer, because I know that there's going to be, you know, a lot of individuals that watch this that maybe they have that idea. And I won't use your exact words, a who was smarter moment, let's say, even though I maybe want to say that. But that being said, you know, for people out there that have this dream or they have something they want to do, and maybe they're in a position at the moment to where they're not, you know, they just haven't taken that plunge or done that thing. Like, what kind of things would you tell them? Just, and I know it's not going to be for one person's going to, you know, do everything the same way, but like, what kind of things would you tell them that they should be thinking about as they kind of consider making that transition into entrepreneurship?
And this is a lot of what the book is about, Adam. I originally started to write this book and I thought it was going to be more technical in nature, and it ended up being more psychological in nature, because the biggest challenge that most first-time young or even, you know, a little ways down the road entrepreneurs have, they don't fail for technical reasons. They fail for mental and psychological reasons. Not that they're crazy. But
entrepreneurship can drive you crazy. I'll attest to that one. I mean, it's hard. It can make you feel crazy. So anybody that's hearing this, like, hey, been there, I think done that. Go ahead.
Most of the spouses of those entrepreneurs will say it's crazy.
Yeah. They're all raising their hand right now.
But you look at the statistics, you got 500,000 people a month in the United States starting a new business. That's 6 million businesses a year, right?
Wow.
The challenge is the IRS will tell you that only 42% of those businesses make money in any given year. And this is kind of the genesis of the book, is why aren't you making money? But my reason or my story of starting is how most of those people start. You've got, in the book, I call it Joe the plumber. You got Joe the plumber who goes every day, goes to work, goes and does all the plumbing. They pay him $50 an hour, but he's billing 200. And one day Joe says, hey, why am I not making $200 an hour? Yeah. Right? I should start my own business. And that's how most of these businesses get started. The problem you have is that, as I like to say in the restaurant business, I have managers that manage my restaurant, but they don't know how to manage a business.
Right.
There's a distinct difference between doing the technical aspect of the job and actually running the business end of it. And I encourage you to start that business if that's what you want to do. But if you are not the back end manager, if you're not the entrepreneur kind of guy, if you don't understand numbers and QuickBooks and legalities and insurance, then you either need to bring somebody in who does, or you need to partner with somebody who does, or hire an employee who does. But we get back to one of the reasons businesses fail is they start these businesses and they don't really know how to get their house in order. They don't know what they're doing, and they think that there's something that they're not, right? You need to understand who you are, what your talents are, and backfill everything else. And that's one of the challenges business owners have. So entrepreneurship's awesome. You just don't want to be a failed one.
Absolutely. And the book, and just to reference, so because we'll go deeper, the book, The Dropout Multi-Millionaire. What was the inspiration? Like, when did you sit back and you're like, I have something to give. Like, I want to get this book done. I think people need this information. Like, what was that inspiration? If you remember the moment, or maybe.
No, I got it. I actually wrote my first book, which again, I have to reiterate, I'm from a farm town in Ohio, and I'm not politically correct. My first book is called I Give the Dumb Kids Hope. And basically that's the genesis of my life, right? I got kicked out of high school.
When I read that title, by the way, I was like, come on. I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Michigan. So I'm like, come on, this needs to be said.
The story is my kids went to private school in high school, and they struggled for grades, and they always had to get straight A's, and it was important, and the school preached it, and good grades, good education, good college, good job. And I'm arguing with my daughter one day, and I said, listen, it's like 2 a.m. and you're still studying. You got to go to bed. And she's like, Daddy, you don't support my educational goals. And by the way, we're living in this 10,000 square foot house. I got a beach house and a lake house and an airplane and cars and boats. And I said, honey, if education's so important, I got kicked out of high school. How do you explain me? And she said, Daddy, we were talking about you in school, and we decided you give the dumb kids hope.
Oh my.
And I thought, that is a title of my life story. So that's where the title came from. But I wrote that book, and it was over a course of about 5 years, and it was my life story intertwined with business stuff, and it's basically life lessons. Yeah. And I was out in Park City when I finished it, skiing. I got there for a month every year, and I remember finishing the book, and I quit typing, and I was like, "Holy crap! 5 years, and I'm done. Like, I've written it." That's the first draft, by the way. It took another 6 months to finish, and I remember I went to dinner, and I'm by myself, and I'm sitting at dinner at this place in Park City, and I thought, I'm not done writing. That's personal. I need to write a book about all the business lessons that were in there, but write it specifically for business and for business people, because people call me all the time and ask me questions, and I should just put all this stuff that's in here into this book. And so I sat at dinner that night and pulled my phone out, and in 30 minutes, I wrote 100 topics on what I wanted to put in the book, just dictated on my phone, went back after dinner, sat down and drew an outline. And 6 months later, the second book was done.
Wow. So first book, 5 years, second book, 6 months.
Yeah. And really 6 months is really probably 20 days.
Yeah.
Because I tend to not be able to write when I'm home. I have to go someplace else and do it where I'm not distracted.
Yeah. And the book specifically, or books in general, meaning there's different ways to tell a story, like, video, obviously we're doing that right now, podcast, a lot of different ways. What was the significant, and I may sound biased as a publisher. I love books. I love the paper. I love the whole experience. I mean, I grew up with books. That's my thing. And that's why I'm in this business as a publisher. But again, that's my bias. I'd like to hear from you. Like, what was the importance of putting it in book form, this story?
The first book was really originally written as a story for my children and grandchildren when I'm gone, so they could say, this is daddy or granddaddy, and this is this. And I wanted to pass these life lessons on to my children. The second one was really the genesis of this consulting thing. So I've had people since I've written it, and I just released it this summer. and they will say, well, we'd like to talk to you. I'd like to talk to you. Can you help me? And my first answer is, sure, read my book.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk. And it's interesting because I'll give you an example. I just had a young man call me last month, and he said, listen, I read about you. I live near you. I've been to a couple of your restaurants. I own a restaurant. I think it could be the next Moe's. Will you sit down and talk to me, please? And I said, absolutely, but read my book first, and then we can talk. Yeah. He said, deal. So I met him a week later, and I remember sitting down with him at the restaurant, and I said, how are you doing? And he goes, to be honest, I almost canceled our meeting today. And I said, why? He said, because I know the first question you're going to ask me. And I said, what is that? He goes, you're going to ask me where my numbers are because you want to see them. I said, that's exactly right. Do you have them? He goes, no, I don't have any numbers. I don't keep a set of P&Ls for my business. And I said, how do you expect me to help you if you don't even know what you have? There's nothing I can say to you right now that has any bearing on your future. And by the way, you're telling me that you need investors and you're going to build Moe's, but you don't even know if you made any money last year?
Yeah.
That makes no sense. I said, we're done, not to be mean, but you need to go figure out your P&Ls. You call me when they're done, and then we can have an honest discussion. And he said, fair enough.
Oh, so, it's great. It's great. And it makes sense. And I think the ability of, as you make this content, the ability to help more people, like there's only one of you. It doesn't matter. Like there's only one, you can't always have that one-to-one connection. In this case, it was a great scenario, perfect storm, right? But I always tell people, and I talk about this pretty often, the idea of mentorship or things like that is when you think of a mentor or something, a piece of content can be a form of mentorship. So something like a book or a message or a keynote or something that you listen to, like you have access to, in my opinion, the best knowledge today through books like yours and people that are going through it present day. But then you also have history, like people that have gone through in the past. So between those two things, if you're really diligent about it, like possibly you have a better chance of not becoming one of those statistics of the businesses that maybe don't do so well.
Listen, there are a couple of entire storylines around what you just said, but I'm going to give you the very short one. Yeah. And this was told to me 20 years ago, back when I was a very young entrepreneur, not making any money, didn't know what I was doing, which is most entrepreneurs. And this person said, Brian, the difference between you today and you 5 years from now is going to be the people you associate with and the books you read. Yeah. And today we can add the podcasts you listen to, but it's what you're putting in your head that's helping move you forward or backwards or go nowhere in life. So yes, books, people you associate with, podcasts you listen to, this podcast right here, this is something you're putting in your head that's helping you become a better person at whatever it is you're trying to do. So if you don't do any of those, you're not going to change. You'll be right where you are in 5 years.
Let's go. So you gave one thing, and I know there's more. So you talked about like know your numbers, right? Your P&L. You gave a great example of that. And if you're watching this right now, and then you're in that situation, it doesn't mean it's the end. It just means you have to fix it. Like you have to do something about it. Like you know what you need to do.
Listen, if you have revenue, everything else can be fixed. Even if you're losing money, if you have revenue, you can't fix revenue a lot of times, but if you have revenue, everything else can be fixed. So, yeah.
What are some of the other things? So the other reasons that maybe businesses failed in your experience or that you've seen?
These are me a little bit deep, right?
Yeah.
So, and I talk about this in the book, and my books, by the way, are nothing more than a culmination of everything I've put in my head over the last 55 years, right? So the first thing you need to understand, and it's really chapter 1 in the book, is what I call your personal filter. And your personal filter is essentially the decision-making part of your subconscious that filters every bit of data or information that comes at you and accepts it or rejects it instantly. And it's what helps you make decisions. So you're a child, your parents teach you, that goes in your brain. You get into school, your teachers teach you, that goes into your brain. But what your teachers are teaching you, by the way, came from their parents and their education and their friends. And then you have friends, they try to peer pressure you, but that peer pressure comes from their parents, their teachers, their education. Then when you go to college, same thing. And then you get a job. Your entire life is made up of data that's coming at you from not only the sources you see, but all the sources behind that and the sources behind that. And it's an infinite number of people that are influencing you on a daily basis. And all that data and all that information, all those books you read, all those podcasts you listen to, all those people you associate with, they are forming this filter in your head that filters data and accepts it or rejects it, right? People are listening to me right now and they're either accepting what I'm saying or they're going, this guy's full of crap, right? And they're making those decisions at a subconscious level based on everything they've done in the past. Your future decisions are based on everything that's done in the past. The problem is, if you've never been in business before and you've never been successful at what you're doing, you literally have no idea how to make the proper decisions to make you successful in whatever venture it is you're doing. You have no idea. So you're best guessing it, right? In fact, you said something a little bit ago about a mentor. Smartest thing you can do in any business, from startup, midstream to whatever, is find a mentor that is 4 or 5 steps ahead of you that can come in and go, listen to me, I've done that. That's not going to work. Okay. Save yourself some time, heartache, and whatever, and maybe shift course just a little bit. So find a mentor. But that decision-making ability that's in your head, and I always use this example, Adam, do you know people in your life who you're like, you know, that Susan, everything she touches turns to gold. Like, we
all have that.
And do you know other people and you're like, dude, Jim, you can't win to save your life. Like,
so
you're Job out of the Bible. Like, everything's wrong.
Yeah.
Those people are where they are because of what's in their head. It's the decision-making process. It's the filter that accepts or rejects information that makes them more successful or a bigger failure. The more you fail, you become a failure magnet. The more you succeed, you become a success magnet. The old adage that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, that's true. You know why? And this gets back to the question. I pose this question to you. Think about Jeff Bezos, multi-billionaire, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett. You know the difference between them and, say, anybody listening or you or me? What's the difference between me and all of those people besides the $1 trillion?
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of money, but other than that, go.
It's the way they think.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only difference. The only difference, we're all human beings. We got arms and legs and we think, and the only difference is the way they think. They think at a level that we can't comprehend, and therefore they have success at a level that we don't have. And it's not necessarily because they're smarter than us. It's just a thinking process, right? So if you need to think better, find somebody to help you do that. Here's the other example I'll use. You're familiar, you have an iPhone by any chance?
Actually, before that step, I want to, if somebody's filter is off, is there hope for them? Like, is there hope?
I'm going down that road with you.
Okay, go ahead. I got an iPhone. Yes.
Okay. Who makes iPhone?
Apple.
Apple makes iPhone. Actually, that's not true. Foxconn makes iPhone.
Oh,
Most people don't know this. And Apple buys it from Foxconn and sells it to you. Apple creates the programming inside the Foxconn, but that's a different story. But Apple makes iPhone, right? $3 trillion company, huge. Do you know the CEO of Apple?
No.
Tim Cook. Tim Cook runs the biggest company on the planet. Probably a pretty smart guy.
Yeah.
Right? Do you know Tim Cook has a board of directors?
Oh, yeah.
And do you know what they do? They come in every quarter and they're like, hey, Tim, what are your issues? What's going on? What's the direction of the company? What are your thoughts? And each one of them says, well, based on my experience, based on my background, and based on my filter, this is my input into your decision-making process. And the next one says, this is my input, this is my input. And Tim takes all of their inputs, all of their filters, combines it, and it helps Tim make better decisions for his company. And they've created the biggest company in the world. And then I look at a young entrepreneur and I say, if Tim Cook needs a board of directors to help him make decisions, what makes you think you can do this all on your own?
Wow.
So your question is, what do these entrepreneurs do that don't have the success filter? You get a mentor. You join a mentor group. You join a CEO organization. Put yourself in front of other people that have experience that can help guide you to making the correct decisions. If you try to do it yourself, much, much harder.
So you don't have to go at it alone. That's the point. And you shouldn't. You shouldn't.
You should not.
Like that whole lone wolf, like they did it themselves or they're doing it themselves. Like, so that's kind of a myth, right? Like nobody builds anything of great significance or wealth or anything like that by themselves. You need people.
Let me throw this, and I love this part of the book. You ever heard this statement? 80% of the time, I am 100% accurate.
Yes.
Okay, that's a joke actually from Anchorman. Will Ferrell said it in one of his movies, but there is always going to be an outlier situation where somebody's going to come back and go, oh, but I know this guy, Bill, and he did it all on his own. Okay, well, Bill's one guy out of the 6 million last year and 5 million failed. So maybe you're not Bill.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you should take more of a structured, more successful approach to what you're doing in business and find somebody to help you. And it doesn't even have to be somebody that, I mean, people ask me for advice all the time. I give it to them for free.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it long term, but there are people that will help you that isn't going to cost you a fortune if you're young in business. So you need to find somebody to help you.
It's great. And so kind of staying on this theme. So if we have, so number one, we talked about mentors, we talked about your filter, about, you know, getting other people to help you. What are some other things reasons why that maybe some businesses fail versus succeeding? Like, give me some more.
I'll give you a couple more. Part of it's going to tie into number one, and it's going to be an ego problem. Okay. Entrepreneurs have egos. They have egos that makes them think that all their decisions are good. I watched Dave Ramsey the other day on TV. You know who Dave Ramsey is?
Oh, yeah.
Super successful guy, right?
Yeah.
And he said, you know what? 80% of my ideas don't work. All you see, though, is Dave Ramsey. Super successful. But 80% of his ideas don't work. He doesn't have an ego that keeps him from admitting that all his decisions aren't the right decisions, so he has other people helping. If you're a young entrepreneur and your ego is to the point where you think everything you think is right and you can't take advice from other people, you're probably going to fail. So ego is a big problem. And the other one is really the numbers, and we talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
You would be surprised, maybe you wouldn't, but you'd be surprised how many people that have a business don't know their numbers. They don't know how to run a P&L. They don't have any form of QuickBooks. They don't know what their ROIs are on product lines. They don't know what their salespeople are doing. They have no idea. They're just out there doing something, thinking that if I do something, and it's going to be okay. Yeah. And that's just absolutely not true. And this, by the way, doesn't just apply to small people. I worked for a $2 billion insurance company who didn't have a clue how to run a P&L. I call it from the bottom up, right? We do individual P&Ls by person, and you run your P&L from the bottom up as opposed to the top down. It's a more complicated topic, but they didn't know how to do it either. So you need to know your numbers and everything about your company. I don't even step foot in my restaurants, and yet I can look at a P&L and tell you everything that's going on, what's right, what's wrong, what needs to get fixed, because your P&L is like a magic crystal ball. And if you're not good at numbers, and a lot of entrepreneurs are not, then you either need to bring a partner in or hire somebody who can tell you what the heck's going on.
It's great advice. I mean, you're really doing a masterclass here today on entrepreneurship and what it takes and some of the pitfalls. And what I like about this too is that there's hope. Like everything that you've said, like nothing's dire. It doesn't mean like somebody has something debilitating. Like I'm not saying it's easy to get over the ego, or not saying it's easy to admit you're wrong, especially if you're not used to it, right? It becomes easier over time the more humbled you are. I mean, I'm probably, 15, 20 businesses in before Mission Matters. And, I found what actually worked for myself. But that being said, if I look back at my younger years when I was a little bit more, thought I knew more than I did, I went through a lot of bumps and things like that, that I'm like, man, I didn't have to. Like my ego or this or that, or why wasn't I paying attention to the numbers? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, who does that? But I did it. I mean, so all the mistakes you said, and I always like to kind of turn this back on me, because if you're watching this and you're kind of feeling like, hey, you can relate. Well, I'm just telling you, I can relate. I made every single mistake that Brian talked about today. And I'm maybe possibly making some now that I hope to overcome in the future and to get better and better at things like building the board and some of those other things, so that we can even go to the next level to get even more success and do other things and just be of more value. So the thing is, though, is that, like I said, these aren't dire things. Like these can be corrected. Like there's things that can be done to help. Yeah.
I'll give you two more easy ones. So have you ever heard the term that you have to fail to succeed?
Yes.
It's kind of a cliche, right?
Yeah.
And every time I hear that on a podcast or whatever, I'm always like, no, you got it wrong. You have to fail and learn to succeed. Too many people fail and fail and fail and fail and never learn, and they don't succeed. And I did a podcast actually from Antarctica with one of the people on the boat last week. And he said, but you know, we teach entrepreneurs that you have to have a crystal clear vision of where you're going, and then you need to follow that vision. And my answer is yes, but you were to tell me that, hey, Brian, I'm going to leave Atlanta and I'm going to drive to California. And I did my GPS and it mapped it out. We're going to go 70 west and we're going to roll all the way across the country and we're going to California. I have a crystal clear vision of getting from here to there, or starting your business to success. Crystal clear. And you're rolling along and you get through Alabama and you're rolling into Louisiana. And I come and I say, hey, Adam, by the way, right at the border of Mississippi, there is a 1,000-foot crevice with a bridge that goes over it. And the bridge is out.
Yeah.
Okay. The bridge is out. Now, the last exit to get off the road is 100 miles from the bridge. And I'm telling you, you need to get off the exit now and go to the right and go all the way around in order to get to California. Now, his point was, no, you stick with the vision. And I said, you stick with the vision and you're going off the cliff and dying.
Yeah.
Or you're going to get to the edge of the cliff and go, crap, I got to drive backwards 100 miles after the 100 miles I just drove to get back to that point. So then now I can fix it. Right. Crystal clear vision doesn't mean you don't improvise and adapt along the way.
Yeah.
You're still going the same direction. You still have the same end goal. But as Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan till you get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Right. Sticking and moving and doing this and keeping up. That's how you get there. Right. IBM did not start selling computers. Apple did not start selling iPhones. Apple started selling the Apple IIe. And they improvise and adapt it all the way up to being Apple Computer today, which is really Apple iPhones, right? Improvise and adapt. Just because you're headed a direction doesn't mean you can't shift and move. Don't get so sucked into your vision you drive off the cliff.
It's great. So 2 books under your belt. Any other plans for more writing, or like, gotta ask?
I do. I have another book that's coming out. It's called No.
Wait, the whole book is called No?
It's called No. And it's going to be the psychology of sales and negotiation. Wow. Because no is the most powerful word in the human language, particularly from a sales and negotiation standpoint. You just say, no. And I've got stories in the book about negotiating deals. And the joke is you say no and you just sit there and stare at somebody until they say something. Yeah. And they've lost the negotiation. Right? Richard Branson says in one of his books, if your first offer doesn't insult them, you've offered too much, right? It's the winner's curse. If you've won an auction or a bid, that just means you paid more than anybody else was willing to pay. And does that mean you really got a good deal? But no is a powerful word. So psychology of sales and negotiation, it's going to be all the stories of deals I've done for the past 30 years, which is just a big storytelling exercise, which is what all my books are.
That's great. I mean, it's a catalog. It's building. It's a catalog. And I know with the first one, it was part of maybe the legacy leaving to your family, of course, so that they know who you were. But I feel like this whole catalog is a legacy, not just for your family. It's just grown. Like other people can benefit from it, benefit from your knowledge, your success, and where you're going and your thoughts, which is one of the most things that I like about books and kind of just that format of passing things down. So I think it's awesome. So Brian, I know you got a lot of things going on as a business consultant as well. We've been talking a lot about the books as of this up to this point. Maybe let's spend a little bit of time just talking about maybe the types of companies you like working with or what you're doing on the consulting side.
You know, I have long said that if you know how to run a business, then you know how to run a business, right? My background was landscaping, insurance, software, and restaurants. These industries have absolutely nothing to do with each other. Yeah. But the other key to that is I was never actively involved in being on the technical side of any of them. You know, our internet marketing company, I don't know how to program anything. I mean, I'm the worst guy in the world. I can't figure out how to use my email. And yet we had an internet marketing company that was essentially a lead aggregator that was, you know, doing 10, 12,000 credit card applications a day that we sold for $80 million. Wow. I don't know how to do that. I own a restaurant chain. I don't know how to cook. I have a stove downstairs I haven't used in 5 years. Never even opened it up, right? Don't know how to make drinks. Don't know how to serve tables. Don't know how to do any of that. I remember when we started the software company for selling software to insurance companies, I was like a landscaper 2 years ago. And here I am in a boardroom at an insurance carrier trying to sell them a software package that we hadn't even created yet, by the way. We're selling them like blue sky. And I'm looking at all these C-level people and just talking away. And I was thinking to myself, I was mowing your grass a couple of years ago, and now you're about to spend a couple $1 million on software with me.
Yes.
So business is business, Adam. And in business is P&Ls, it's spreadsheets, it's understanding your numbers. That's the business end. I can hire people who know how to do the technical part. So from a consulting standpoint, I can pretty much consult for anybody in the sales, marketing, and management end of things.
Fantastic. So I know you're working on the next book. I know you're practicing consulting. I just have to ask, so what's next? I mean, what's next for you? What's next for the companies?
I'm probably going to exit the restaurant company. We've got opened one today. No, last night. No, today. We opened one today. Haven't been there yet. We're opening 2 more, and then I think I'm going to sell that company. I'll exit that one. I just jumped into local politics here in my hometown to see if I can make a difference here. We're rebuilding our entire payroll structure, beefing up our public safety department. So we're trying to make a difference here at a local level where I live. And then there's just a lot more pursuing passions that I want to do with my life, as I call it being in the back third. 56 years old, I'm in the back third.
It's awesome. I feel like some more Maverick 1000 trips, just a lot more coming out from you, I feel like.
Yeah, I was just sitting with a guy the other day, and I can't tell you, this company sold for $162 million, but him and his wife just backpack around the world. Wow. He's got no cares. He still does consulting and he speaks. He spoke on all 7 continents. He did a little thing for us in Antarctica. But, that's doing all those things that you've always said you wanted to do, but never did. So go build your business, create something that'll give you lifestyle, secure your future by saving enough money and not making bad investments. Take advice from people who can help you, and then go live the dream.
Fantastic. And so, Brian, if somebody wants to connect and to follow up, either to talk, maybe to connect with you on the consulting side, or even if they just want to pick up the books, what's the best way for people to follow your journey?
Amazon.com has my books, so that's super easy. The Dropout Multi-Millionaire and I Give the Dumb Kids Hope. Facebook is the Dropout MM, and Twitter is also the Dropout MM. So, and you can contact me on any of those venues.
Fantastic. Well, really, it has been a pleasure having you on the show and getting to know more about your background, your philosophy in business and just in life, really. I mean, just the things you're doing. It really is, I think, inspiring. I think I was inspired for sure. I'm sure many of our audience will be as well. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters, we're a platform that's all about bringing on entrepreneurs and executives and really just asking them what their mission is, like what motivates them to go out there into the society and into the marketplace, right? And to make a difference with their lives. If that's the type of content that you're into, we definitely invite you to hit that subscribe button, because we have many more mission-based individuals coming on the line, and we don't want you to miss a thing. And Brian, really, I did enjoy our time here today. And thank you again for coming on.
Adam, I appreciate it very much. Thank you, sir.